Sup, you beautiful bastards. Hope you're having a fantastic Monday. Welcome back to the Philip DeFranco Show, and let's just jump into it. And the first thing we're going to talk about today is a story that has a headline that makes it go, yeah, that sounds about right. And the reason I say that is the headline is, Woman attacked by a jaguar after jumping zoo barrier to get a photo. Yeah, that sounds about right. You play a stupid game, you get a stupid prize. Jaguars are gonna do jaguar stuff. Also attached to this story is a video that has been making its rounds all over social media that I'm not gonna share in this story. It's her bleeding from the attack. And part of the reason I'm not sharing that video is that it is a graphic video, and it also may make you look at her in a sympathetic light because you maybe for a second you forget that she put herself in that situation by jumping a barrier. But on the note of the woman's injuries, the zoo did tweet, the visitor sustained non-life-threatening injuries to their arm from one of our female jaguars. At the request of the family, paramedics were called. At no time was the animal out of its enclosure. Please understand why barriers are put in place. Sending prayers to the family tonight. Also, for the people worried that this jaguar would get put down because it attacked a human, the zoo responded, we can promise you nothing will happen to our jaguar. She's a wild animal and there were proper barriers in place to keep our guests safe. Not a wild animal's fault when barriers are crossed. Still sending prayers to her and her family. The most recent update to this story is the woman suing the zoo. I'm kidding. I know you're like, America, that sounds real. No, the woman is not suing, and in fact, according to reports, she went back to the zoo to apologize, with the zoo spokeswoman saying, the woman feels horrible about the bad publicity the zoo is getting regarding the incident. To which I would personally respond, I don't know how much bad press the zoo is getting. I feel like most everyone is on the same page of, she probably shouldn't have jumped the safety barrier to get an Instagram pic or whatever the hell it was. And you know what, really, if I could end this story on one note, it's think about the picture or video you're gonna take and ask, is it worth it? What's the worst that could happen? And I say that because this situation isn't completely unique. You might remember back in 2018, we talked about a study that found between October 2011 and November 2017, 259 selfie-related deaths were reported. You have people falling from great heights, getting hit by trains, getting mauled by bears. So yeah, use your common sense, know where your limit is. Personally, my limit is no actual physical risk to my health, but I'm completely fine looking like a big idiot. For example, on my Instagram, at Philly DeFranco, I have this adorable slow motion video of me swinging my son around. I greatly trust my hamstring, so the biggest risk I have in that moment is someone's filming how I'm filming that, which if you pause that clip, you can see I'm holding my phone in my mouth. But at no point, and here's the key, am I at risk of a jaguar attack? And that's the trick. So I guess if there's two main points here, one, don't be stupid. And two, when I say let's jump into it, it is never a pit with a jaguar in it, ever. And if you didn't know, now you do. Then, somewhat quick, we have an update around Captain Marvel. There's a big question out there of, would this movie bomb? And the kind of oversimplified TLDR for what led to this question, you had a good number of people saying that Brie Larson was anti-white guy, she was out there alienating part of the Marvel fan base. But on the other side, you had people like Clark Gregg, aka Agent Coulson, describing the backlash with different words.
I don't know if the expression is butthurt about seeing someone else get a hero that looks like them, but that's because they've always had heroes that look like them. There are people who get very bent out of shape about the fact that she's a woman and that Brie's a woman and wants to see women moving into an equal place in humanity to men. Sad. It must be sad to be that kind of dinosaur wandering toward the tar pits.
You also had a lot of people pushing back against Gregg's characterization of why people were bothered. For example, some of the top comments from that Nerdist video and interview include, why wasn't Wonder Woman hated like Captain Marvel? I see. That is why Alita Battle Angel is getting so much hate as well. It's like Wonder Woman all over again. Oh wait, and who actually says they hate Captain Marvel because she's a woman? That's not why people dislike the movie. But ultimately, it appears that whatever was happening online, including some people saying they were boycotting the movie, it didn't have a massive effect. According to reports, over the weekend, Captain Marvel brought in $153 million domestic and $455 million worldwide in its opening weekend. And according to reports, this makes it the 7th largest opening for a Marvel movie domestically, and it became the 4th biggest non-sequel launch ever. And as far as my review, I haven't seen it yet, although that was just because I didn't have time. Now, as far as the reason this movie still did so well, there are people that have been throwing out theories. Some saying whatever is happening on the internet, good or bad, ultimately it becomes noise, and if people are interested in a movie, they're gonna go see it. Especially when it's something like a Marvel movie, which has had a very, very good track record over the past decade. At the same time, you also had people saying, they didn't support Brie Larson, they weren't especially excited about this movie, but in anticipation for Endgame, they felt that they had to watch this movie. What I would say is I would personally love to see the demographic breakdown of people buying tickets. Because as we've talked about in the past, a lot of the times when there is a controversy, there's a lot of pushback from one side, you see a lot of support from another. Right? Like maybe people that would see it in a few weeks or when it would be on iTunes, but all of a sudden they were motivated to go see it now to make some sort of statement. So I wonder if that played a factor. But with all of that said, of course, with this story, I pass the question off to you. Why do you think that the release of this movie was still so incredibly successful? And also, if you saw the movie, what'd you think about it? But from that, I want to share some stuff I love today and Awesome, brought to you by Beauty Beautiful Bastard. The Beautiful Bastard, if you don't know, is my men's care line starting with hair care. It's been a while since I promoted it, since the last time it sold out in the first hour, and then we did pre-orders for a limited 24 hours, and we just now finally gotten through all that. But finally, as of today, over at beautifulbastard.com, you can click the link down below, we are back in stock. Fantastic natural pomades along with our best-selling matte clay pomade. Fantastic beard oils with 3 different scents, which, by the way, they smell so good. We turned 2 of them into candles, and I will say this has become the most appreciated product from the ladies of the nation. But also, in addition to being back in stock on everything, we're also introducing the new Seacliff Mint Lip Balm. And in addition to all of that, after a ton of requests, we have also enabled subscriptions. If you want to get certain products every month, every 2 months, every 3 months, that option is available, and you actually save 10%. But yeah, same as last time, if you want to snag yourself some Beautiful Bastard, which of course is made with high quality ingredients, ethically sourced from around the world, handmade in the United States, snag them while you can. It's first come, first serve. And the first bit of awesome today is actually connected to our sponsor, because in the next 36 hours, I'm going to pick 2 people that are subscribed to the Beautiful Bastard mailing list. Link to subscribe to that down below. And I'll be giving those 2 people any 3 products that they want for free. All you gotta do is subscribe. Then Corridor gave us Chopstick God. We had CGP Grey revisiting Brexit. We had Freddie Highmore answering the web's most searched questions. We got an official clip for The Inventor, Out for Blood in Silicon Valley. A teaser for The Art of Self-Defense. We had Video Game Donkey taking on Tetris. And if you wanna see the full versions of everything I just shared, the secret link of the day, really anything at all, links as always are in the description down below. And let's talk about this just horrible story out of Ethiopia that has now turned into an international scare. On Sunday at 8:38 local time, a brand new Boeing 737 MAX 8 took off from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, with plans to fly to Nairobi. The plane had 157 people on board, 149 passengers, 8 crew members. The people on the flight came from over 35 countries, and the passengers also included at least 21 employees of United Nations affiliated agencies who were flying to Nairobi to attend a conference. The flight was chartered by Ethiopian Airlines, which is one of Africa's largest carriers, and shortly after takeoff, the pilot of Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 reportedly made a distress call and requested to return to the airport, which he was granted. But the last transmission from Flight 302 was reported at 8:41 a.m., and just 6 minutes after takeoff, Flight 302 disappeared from radar, which is the time it is believed to have crashed. An eyewitness who saw the crash reported that the plane was, quote, swerving and dipping before crashing about 40 miles outside of Addis Ababa. And what we saw after is that Ethiopian authorities have announced that they will investigate the crash with the assistance from the United States, Kenya, and others. Forensic experts have come from Israel to help with the investigation, and members of the Red Cross have been seen sifting through debris, recovering passports and other personal documents, among other things. And while the cause of the crash is still unknown, Ethiopian Airlines did tweet that the digital flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder, otherwise known as the black box, had been recovered. And if you're unfamiliar with that, the black box records a number of inputs such as the sounds in the cockpit, including the pilot's conversation, and it is specifically designed to aid in investigations in aviation accidents. And so a big thing to understand with this story is it is expected that we will get more information soon. Now, if Boeing 737 MAX sounds familiar, it's because just 4 months ago, another Boeing 737 MAX plane known as Lion Aircraft Flight 610 crashed off the coast of Indonesia, killing 189 people. And in fact, we talked about this back in October. We'll link to the coverage down below. But the circumstances surrounding both flights are eerily similar. The pilot of the Lion Air flight also reported issues within minutes of taking off from Tangerang Airport. The pilot also asked air traffic control if they could return to the airport. Just 1 minute later, the flight goes off the radar, and it is believed that the flight crashed within 12 minutes of taking off. And a big note here is that this plane is not just a random uncommon model. This is Boeing's latest iteration of the 737, which is the world's best-selling plane. And as of right now, more than 300 Boeing 737 MAX planes are currently in operation, and since 2017, more than 5,000 have been ordered worldwide. And so people have seen this as a big deal just for general safety as well as Boeing's money. Right now, Boeing has 4,700 unfilled orders for these 737s, which represent 80% of their orders backlog. Which, while we're talking about Boeing has also released a statement following the crash saying, Boeing is deeply saddened to learn of the passing of the passengers and crew on Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, a 737 MAX 8 airplane, and adding a Boeing technical team will be traveling to the crash site to provide technical assistance under the direction of the Ethiopia Accident Investigation Bureau and U.S. National Transportation Safety Board. But Boeing has also said that it doesn't have new plans for guidance, with Charlie Miller, Boeing's Vice President of Communications, reportedly saying in a statement, the investigation is in its early stages, but at this point, based on the information available, we do not have any basis to issue new guidance to operators. But still, for Boeing, regarding the money, they have taken massive heat, with Boeing stock dropping more than 12% this Monday morning, which, according to reports, this puts Boeing on track for its worst day since the first day of trading following the 9/11 terror attacks. But that said, the stock has actually rebounded a little bit since this morning, and now they're only down about 6% as of recording this. And to make matters even worse for Boeing, numerous countries have responded to this crash by grounding their planes. Notably, you had the Indonesian Transport Ministry announcing today that they will be temporarily grounding Boeing 737 MAX 8s, which is also significant because they also previously grounded all MAX 8s in the country following the Lion Air crash, but after inspections, the planes were declared safe to fly. Also among those grounding flights, one of the biggest players was China, and that is a massive deal because China is one of Boeing's biggest markets. In fact, about 85% of Boeing's Chinese airline orders that haven't been filled yet are 737 MAX planes. And Boeing in the past has already predicted that China will become the world's first trillion-dollar market for jets within the next few years. Additionally, going back to Ethiopian Airlines, they have taken more drastic measures, announcing that they will take all 737 MAX planes out of service entirely. And this has even broader implications for the African continent because Ethiopian Airlines is widely considered the best managed airline in Africa. But all of that said, not everyone is grounding their planes. So far, no US airlines have grounded their 737 MAX jets. And looking at the numbers together, American, Alaska, United, and Southwest Airlines own 65 737 MAX jets, which reportedly is only part of 548 jets that have been ordered. So once again, this is another way where this could just be devastating for Boeing. But ultimately, that is where we are right now, and we're kind of just left with questions and fear. Is it safe? Why are some countries grounding versus not? For example, in the States, you have those 65 aircraft. If you decided to ground those and replace them with other planes, the disruption would be slight. But right now, as we wait to hear answers, we've seen some pilots say that it may have something to do with autopilot. The latest iteration of the 737 has been noted for its increased capabilities of flying autonomously. And while that likely sounds like to a lot of us that would increase safety, that's not always the case. There was this article in The Guardian written by Gwyn Topham who compares this to self-driving cars, writing, "It is notable that insurers considering driverless cars worry most about the period when highly autonomous vehicles will coexist with human drivers, the uncertain interface between human and artificial intelligence." And a big part of the controversy around this comes from pilots around the world following the Lion Air crash. You had some pilots saying they believed that small software modifications to the MAX 8's autopilot had not been fully communicated to them, and they were not subject to new training to deal with that software. Specifically, it's reported that one new feature of the 737 MAX 8 is that the plane automatically corrects if it believes an angle it is flying at puts it at risk of stalling. And it's a safety feature that is reportedly different from what 737 pilots were used to. And this is a big deal because Lion Air's black box suggested that the pilots of that flight had been wrestling with this issue. But Boeing, for its part, argued that if pilots followed procedures, there shouldn't be a problem. But past crashes have shown that sensors which aircraft systems rely on can malfunction. Additionally, it's been argued that many pilots have become used to certain technology that don't always know what to do when things go wrong. But also understand this is one line of thinking, people looking for an explanation. You also have aviation experts out there criticizing the lack of experience of the co-pilot in this instance, who reportedly only had 200 hours of experience. But with all of that said, of course, I want to pass the questions off to you. One, what do you think about the situation in general? And two, seeing these reports, does it make you nervous? Would you second guess getting on a 737 MAX 8? Or no, do you still see this as outlier incidents and flying in general is still so much safer than any other form of travel? Any and all thoughts you have on this, I'd love to hear from you. And that's where we're going to end today's show. And of course, remember, if you like today's video, you like jumping into the news with me every single day, let me know. Hit that like button. Also, if you're new here, be sure to hit subscribe. Definitely ring that bell to turn on notifications. Also on that note, if you missed the last Philip DeFranco show, the last extra morning news deep dive, you want to catch up, click or tap right there to watch those. But with that said, of course, as always, my name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love yo faces, and I'll see you tomorrow.